And thank you for joining us. You're still watching Good Morning Uganda on UBC Television. It is time for the agenda, and we all do know that this Friday, the 8th of March, is International Women's Day, and what a way to start the celebrations by making sure that the whole week almost we have interactions and conversations with ladies in the country that have made being a woman very interesting and being a woman something to be proud of. Now, this morning, we are having a conversation with a former radio personality. And this morning, I also learned of a new title that literally suits anything that you would be doing as an individual, the evolving woman. And we are talking about someone who has over 20 years in the media industry, and by this we are talking about radio or FM broadcast, and this is none other than Miss Irene Ocho. And I had to start practicing because, one, in the media you can't mispronounce a name, right?
Yeah.
You don't have the right to.
That's the number one crime.
You
yes.
do not mispronounce a name. I had to do my practice before even pronouncing it to you in my head. I had to first resound it. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Nice to meet you, dear.
Nice to meet you, and thank you for joining us this morning. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I told you a little earlier that I was a bit nervous. I'm looking at over 20 years in the media industry, and I'm looking at my few years, and I'm thinking, now it's time to start checking myself at a particular point and how am I doing? But welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and you're doing well, pretty well.
Thank you.
Yes.
And so we are taking 20 years in FM broadcast, and being among the pioneers when you talk about FM broadcast, I would like to first hear from you that first experience and how did it go, jumping into something that was not in the country, not known. How was the experience for you?
Well, for me, I've always been a person who loves to take up a challenge, and I didn't know that this would be a huge challenge because this was a new industry coming.
Right.
There was no schools on how to present on an FM structure. So when the opportunity was given to me, actually it's someone who found me in a classroom and told me, you have a good radio voice. I believe you could be someone who could work in radio, so why don't you go and do the interview? I remember going for the interview. When I was done with it, I felt so stupid. I went back to, I don't know, because it was a different experience. When you're speaking to faces in the classroom, the engagement is there. But I was talking to a microphone, and I was like, okay, how does this go?
How do I know someone is listening?
Exactly. Then I quickly went into my acting role. So I acted behind the microphone. I left. The next day I got a call and they said, guess what? You passed the voice test, but you also passed the character test. And I was given 2 days to learn how to manage the equipment because the FM is different. I don't know how it was with the AM, but FM, you're the one driving the desk. You're in charge. You're the pilot, you're the producer.
There's no control room.
Yes,
you are the control
you are
room,
in
you're
charge.
The sound engineer.
Exactly.
Everything.
So it was quite intimidating sitting in this room alone with so many buttons. You don't know what to do.
Right.
And I was simply told, yeah, now you're going on air. I jumped into it. And I never stopped from that point.
Well, you remind me of someone that introduced me in the media, Sean Chimuli. My first live show, he told me, you go look stupid on air. Literally telling me, make sure you do not mess this up. And well, I believe I tried my level best, especially having been through a short time of training. Now, the other question I would have for you would be, as now we are beginning, or as you look at all these 20 years and above, what are some of those moments, especially your favorite moments or highlights when it comes to your time in the industry?
Well, there are so many special moments. I've seen that radio has since evolved because now we're doing audio visual. Everything is changing. My most memorable moment is going to be when I interviewed Brenda Fassie.
Wow.
Because here was someone I admired so much. I had never seen her in person. I loved her music. And then the program manager comes and says, guess what? It's not even going to be the prime presenter interviewing. We want woman on woman. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? But there's something it did to me. From that point on, I realized it has nothing to do whether you're male or female. It's what you love to do. Just get into it. It's a conversation and interact. So ever since that interview, I think something in me snapped and I stopped looking down upon myself and believed in myself that I can do anything I put my mind to.
You know, you've mentioned something very important when it comes to the gender equality, when it comes to how men were viewed and are still viewed in the media industry, and then the ladies. And now you are selected to run this interview as a lady. And now I have a question when it comes to how we have evolved. Back then, did you ever face like some challenges as a female in the media industry?
Yeah, definitely. Remember, I was just pioneering something new, and in FM there's this perception that if you're female, the only thing you can do is sound sexy.
Right.
So I remember we used to have what we call looking through your show prep. So you would go and they would look through it, edit, and talk to you how you presented, good or bad. And the program manager, I remember one day, gave a comment and said, well, the best we can have from you is to sound sexy. And I was like, what? Okay. Next day when I got back on air, I not only spoke in 5 languages, but I engaged people totally different from what was structured. That's when it hit his mind that we have to remove this thing of because she's female, it's about engagement.
That's all she can give.
If she's female and she can engage with both male and female, why are we labeling her? That's how I ended up being bumped now to the breakfast show.
Okay. Well, it also now gets me to the realization that some of these things are self-initiative.
Yes.
And maybe at this moment, maybe you would like to speak to a young lady out there that would like to join the media. And lately the challenges are also quite many, especially in terms of exploitation and all that. Right now, maybe in a few seconds, speak to someone, a lady especially in the media, who would want to make it.
Okay, number 1, find out who you are all about. Who are you? Do you believe in yourself?
Right.
Because the first thing they're always going to attack as a woman is the confidence of who you believe yourself to be.
Right.
So who are you? Then find out the things that make you unique, that only you can express like you, and start building up on that. And of course, take some extra time to invest in yourself. How can I sound better? How can I appear better? How can I communicate better? When you find the truth of you, the confidence of you, no one is going to step on you. You will definitely shine.
Great. And speaking about women, let's talk about the impact that you have seen on when it comes to representation of women in broadcasting.
I think that field is going to further expand because right now we're also having alternative media.
Right.
You have social media, you have podcasting. It is giving someone an opportunity not just to wait for a mainstream media to become a voice. So I'm seeing so many young girls setting up podcasts, and they do come to me and I encourage them, find yourself. When you find yourself, the audience waiting to listen to you will come. Right. Stop looking down on yourself, then you will be able to open up people to find you as a voice in whatever medium. And if you're really, really good, then probably you would be picked up by mainstream media. So it still goes back to self-initiative. You want to become something, find out what it is, and keep working on it until it gets better.
Okay, and are there any specific moments? You've talked about the interview with Brenda Fassie, and could there be like any other experience or any other interview that you've had that has greatly impacted you, especially when it comes to broadcast? Personally, my experience was one time someone stood in my face and told me, if you don't do what I want, you're going to be off that show.
Oh.
Trying to intimidate me. So for me, it was a changing moment because someone had never stood in my face and given me the option of it's either or. And I had to make my decision. I told myself, even if I go to my house and drink water, I will drink the water, but I will not do what this person wants. So it could be a positive or a negative moment that you've faced, but greatly impacted your life.
I've had so many negative ones. That one I can say. Even right now in this current space that I'm in, someone says, who do you think you are? You think you can do it?
Wow.
But if you make up your mind, like I said, that this is who I am, you do not take what I believe in, and the best thing always is not to get emotionally involved.
Right.
Just observe it and say, look here, there's a reason why this person is coming at me. There is something that I have that they don't have, and they want to kill it.
Right.
When you build upon that, the people stop attacking that you are, and you get the confidence to go on to the next stage.
Great. As a lady in the media space, what is the role or the importance of the female voice in the media industry or in broadcast?
I'll take you back now to something out of the ordinary. We're talking about energies in a space.
Right.
Now, the female voice has always been seen as something that just deals with the sexual appeal and the beauty, and they forget the power that comes with the passion that the female brings in broadcast media.
Right.
So I believe as many women are challenged to get into the space, they need to also change the narrative, that we don't come here just to sound good, to look good. We have great information to share, and we're looking to commune people, complement, and come from compassion, rather than compete, crush, and divide.
Right.
Yes.
Right. It's at that point that I would like to also know, you've mentioned some, of course, in your delivery, some of the other challenges or the other, can I call them, the other vices that you see, especially with women in the media space, that we need to deal with for us to even be at a better level?
First of all, as women in the media space, we should stop competing. We shouldn't divide ourselves, because there's something I see when a lady makes it into the media space, she's now taken over by, I'm famous.
I'm the one.
I'm the one. No one can compare. And the moment you do that, you're killing the space where you would pull others up to come and be in service rather than famous.
Right.
So if we get into this space, let's use it to impact society and not look at me, I made it. So what if you're not impacting others to find themselves?
I wish that mentality. I think the point goes back down to this mentality should be built even from when we are being taught, even from our homes, because you get to realize that someone who behaves like that, probably the habit has been there, or the vice has been there, stems maybe from where they come from, and it doesn't serve the purpose for which they are pursuing. The other question would be, I mean, over 20 years in broadcast, there has been a lot of drama, a lot of not very positive publicity about media personalities and all that goes with. The question would be how you have managed as a lady over the years to balance your work in such a space. One, remember where you started from. It's a new space, you're trying to navigate it, but you have a personal life to run. So I would really love to have a deeper conversation on how you've managed as a lady to balance that and, have your personal life running, but the media life is also running, and keep out of trouble, because there's too much trouble out there. As long as you are on radio or TV, for some reason, trouble looks for you.
I'll start by saying media is a beast, yes. But when you don't know who you are, then you're going to keep up appearances.
Right.
From number one, I made up my mind. What you see is what you get. I don't pretend when I'm on radio, and when I'm out of there, I'm still the same person, because I'm not seeking fame. I'm seeking communion. Right. So even when people would rush to me and say, I know that voice, it becomes a game. I said, I also know that voice. So I don't want you to approach me like I am famous. I want you to approach me like you've impacted me, you're my friend. So even my life, if I know I'm chaotic and I'm going to go into a space that has a spotlight, it means I need to change how my life is. I can't be a mess and then say I'm a voice. It doesn't work. It's going to clash. So before you step into that spotlight, is your life a mess? Or is it something you want others to see? Because I don't live a double life. I do go out, I do party, I do travel, but it's within who I discovered myself to be. Right. So that if I'm in the spotlight, I want your life to even be better than mine.
Great. You've reminded me of something that I usually tell people. I tell someone, the moment you step out of your house,
Yes.
Anything can happen. The moment you post something on social media, make sure that if it comes back, I don't know how many years after, make sure that it is your word against whoever has brought it back.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, if you're dressed skimpy, you shouldn't have to defend yourself because you did it knowing the consequences. So I believe also that the part we haven't gotten to understand properly is the fact that whatever we say and do has consequences on the people and ourselves at large. Could you be having a recollection of something that, that you ever saw? It could be in, it could be with maybe a fellow lady, or in a workspace as you were, as you were working, that that was done, and it now showed you that this is a consequence of not knowing what should have been done.
I was privileged that when I was working I managed to grow to the ranks where I would mentor those who would come in, especially the young girls, because I realized they had this challenge of, I want to get famous quickly. And of course the male species, and I'm not blaming the male in any way, would tell them, if you do this, if you have a relationship with me, I'll make sure that X, Y, and Z goes. There's one specific girl who had a challenge. She was, I call it peer pressure. So she was put in a corner where if she wanted to fit in with this person who was supposed to make her famous, she needed to drink, and yet she was not a drinker. So the only intention they wanted her to drink is probably to lose her senses and make use of her. So I remember one time just grabbing her and saying, you know what, you have a choice to make your life whatever it is. You don't need anyone to, you don't even need to take that booze, because in the end you just have gang rape and everything. So I think in the end, the challenges we're finding people in spotlights having a clashing lifestyle. Maybe we need to go back to their childhood, because many people who do that are seeking attention. There's a trauma that hasn't been healed. So even when that goes out, I wouldn't attack the person. I need to know what is causing them to do that. Unfortunately for us in the media, it then becomes a big story. We blow it out, yet this person probably is having a trouble we need to deal with.
Well, you will agree with me. I heard of a very interesting story one time. They called the chief news editor of a particular station, and they told this gentleman, listen, there's been an accident on, the Kampala-Masaka highway, and the first question asked was, Bamekava food day, how many have died? Because probably that's what makes the story, or that's what sells, because you have these big numbers to report, or something apparently big to report. And shouldn't that be something wrong when it comes to how we put out our information in the media?
I think everything boils down to what we have decided to structure the collective to expect from media. For instance, I have changed my TikTok channel to Irene O, Travel, Talk, Transform. So that when you come to my platform, all you're going to find is talk about travel, talk about transformation. I've chosen to bring a positive story. Now, as time has gone and media has evolved, because the most important role that broadcast had when it started coming up into masses was to help communities to understand what was going on in the society, especially during the World War. So that's where they used to get their entertainment, information. So media is supposed to build up people in community. But because now it has gone into that framework of revenue, what sells is what will bring the money. So we do not care what we put out. And what have we done? We have fed the collective to expect negative, 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 negative.
And also that leads me, that also briefly takes me to the fact that you find a lot of negative media about individuals that could have positively impacted the society, but also even our country at large. You agree with me? You're into travel, so you agree with me that we've put out a lot more of negative information about our country than the positive. Just to trace back, let's run back a bit, especially on your personal life. When you joined the media, let's talk about your family's reaction as a lady joining the media, because back then they were not very supportive of the ladies joining the media. You'll agree with me.
Yes.
And it's more like joining the music industry, modeling. all those things were, and a number of activities were put under the unserious category. If you're a lady, then you're going to be branded what I don't want to use. And so how was it for you when you decided to?
Well, I think I'm blessed that I come from a family that is well exposed. Well, let's blame it on tradition and culture, and not understanding that life is about evolving. I've since told myself my life doesn't have to be my daughter's life, because the things in her time are totally different. So when my parents heard that I was going on radio, my mom was like, yeah, because she is a storyteller. She grew from a family where there is communication. She was like, yeah, actually, I was supposed to be an air hostess. I already found myself. So because I found myself, I did not care what society thought about me. And that's what's killing most people. They don't know who they are capable of being. So yes, it was a challenge. There were those who were saying, oh, some relatives like, wow. And I'm like, no, if my parents have my back, I got this. But because they knew their child very well, they were like, go and explore. Actually, the joke at home is Irene always pioneers stuff. And I'm living up to that.
Well, I mean, when we're talking about pioneering FM broadcast in the country, talking about the bit of having supportive parents, to someone who would like to join the industry and their mind is now stuck to what will they think of me, and especially now it's even more dangerous. Yes, back then there was a bit of opposition because it was, I would choose to call it the fear of the unknown. You don't know how it's going to go. But now we know a bit of what happens in there. And how do I even now go to my father and convince my dad that I want to join the media industry? I want to do mass communication, for example. How do I do that? Yet I know my father is probably a traditional man who feels like, a girl, you either do law or medicine or teaching, and those are the careers for a woman. How do I even do that?
I think it's going to take us back to personal development, self-awareness, something that probably some generations did not have, unfortunately.
How do I fight with my dad?
Because the truth of the matter, psychologically, spiritually, whatever you call it, the moment you fear what people think about you, whoever you fear has control over you.
You've allowed them.
I think we need to start raising a generation of people that first believe in who they can be, not where I belong. We were not born to fit in. We were born to shine.
Right.
So it's going to take a cultural thinking shift. Let someone be who they are. Authenticity means show up in who you were gifted to be, not where you were born and which family you belong to.
Right. Now, I have a question that has been burning, and when you look at the trends at the moment on how the media industry is running, you will agree with me that a lot has changed. Back then, a lot of adverts were given to radios and TV stations, but right now they'll choose social media individuals, for example, they would give them a slightly smaller budget, and they're actually giving them results. That means that the popularity of the mainstream media is reducing to a certain degree. But then again, I am very passionate about being in the media. I'm very passionate about radio. I'm very passionate about TV. How do I even now structure myself to make sure that I have a successful career, irrespective of the influencers or the digital influencers that are out there? How do I earn that? How do I do it?
It all goes to evolution. How do the two work together? Alternative media has come, that's true, but mainstream media will never go away. It is here to stay. But how do you also retweak the way in which you broadcast to your listeners so that they feel like they are getting the touch that they find in the social media platforms? That's it. Radio and TV will never go because social media platforms are small radios and small TVs. But there will always be a collective voice that people believe in. Because in the end, you've noticed there's a lot of wrong news that goes on social media and messes up people. So eventually in your heart, you're like, okay, let's first go back to those who really are.
Let's tune into UBC. What are they saying about this?
So just keep being creative and innovative. You can't remain the same. TV will be TV, but how are you doing it differently so that they feel, yes.
Great. And It leads me also to, I had talked about this earlier with you. There is been, even from last year, there has been a bit of contention. One wakes up in the morning and says, if you don't have academic qualification, you need to be checked. Yeah, we've had that in the news, you know, and that is because some who say they've gone to media school are not getting jobs because there are those who didn't study anything to do with mass communication, but they are doing their jobs.
Exactly.
So I would like to hear from you, and I'd like to know what your take is on someone who has academic qualifications and someone who is talented and can be developed and they work in the same space.
Life is shifting. It's good to have the qualifications, true, because now you're being given the basics. But we're living in the information era.
Right.
All this information is available. Most people who are going to be engaging in employment are going to be self-taught.
Right.
Not that I went to academics. For example, me, that's not what I studied. I am self-taught. I knew from a child that I wanted to speak before audiences. I didn't care whether it was going to be TV or radio, but I was going to speak.
You knew that that's what you wanted.
So when I got into the broadcast media, I had no diploma. Even up to this day, I do not have a diploma and a university degree. Actually, I'm in this space in my life where I said, my qualifications are outdated. Everything I studied then has since been overtaken. It does not fit in with the new information that is coming. So it is okay for people to go and get the qualifications. But let me tell you something. If you are not doing something that you are passionate and excited to do, it's just going to be another wahala for you. And the energy you're putting out, are you employable? Is an opportunity looking for you? Going to school doesn't guarantee you a job. Finding what you can serve will open that opportunity to get the job. So I don't know about what the government says about having qualifications, but if you ask me, most of the best presenters never went to a school of media. They were self-taught, but it's good to go and learn the basics. In the end, the power is going to come from the individual. If we're talking about regulations, that is a human thing. I don't need to go to school. Come and tell me you're going to work here. These are our rules. Stick within them, and that's it.
Great. Well, as we are now celebrating, you know, this is Women's Week, closing into Friday to become the International Women's Day. Yeah. The question would be, how do you believe we can continue to promote gender equality and amplify women's voices in the media as of now?
Gender equality, I want to change that a bit.
Okay.
And say gender complementary. The moment we bring equality, we are fighting.
Yeah, we're competing.
But when we say complement, it's going to entice someone to find what they are good at, bring it on the table, bring yours, and we complement. The imbalance is coming because of the word equality, fighting. We are all different species, but we all have unique gifts we have been given. But they cannot come out as long as we're seeking equality instead of complementation. So I think let's take it back to let every individual female find out her unique self, believe in herself, develop herself. One step at a time, it will bring you to the right opportunities. Don't fight, but figure out what you want to become and keep going at it.
Well, I'm speaking from a reporter out there, speaking for someone who's trying to make it in the media space. Both it could be FM or TV broadcast. I am trying to, you know, for us to have that kind of leveled ground. I'm not competing with these gentlemen, but there is someone standing in my, or there are people standing in my way. Someone. You know what I want?
Yes.
Put it on the table.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've heard these stories. I'm sure you've faced some of these things. Some have come to you complaining. Those that you met have come to you complaining that this particular individual is telling me to do this. How do we save ourselves as ladies? Because that is a very big challenge. I'll not be afraid to say this. When you interact with some of the ladies from various media houses, they will tell you, I struggled to get a camera today because a particular individual felt like I refused their advances, so they are frustrating me. Someone says, I went on air and they switched off my sound because I refused to do what they
The
wanted.
advances, yeah.
You get it? How do we now protect ourselves as ladies from one, such exploitation and the frustration? We are passionate, we love to work, and you know, for us women, one thing I know about a woman is you give her something, if she believes in it,
Yeah.
she will do it till the day she drops, unless otherwise, but till the day she drops. So our passion for a moment is in question, or we are wondering, is it really worth it? Then we have girls wasting away because of trying to sustain what they started, or even the poor foundation of starting that job. How do we save ourselves from such exploitation?
Don't you think then we have a challenge with the workspaces?
We definitely do,
So
and
the
this
work
cuts across.
culture is not safe space. This is something I think we need to start promoting for any industry. Safe space, both for male and female, because it also happens the other way around. by the way.
Definitely, yes, yes.
So I think it's time for us to look at workplaces, not just for you to go and work. Are we creating safe spaces? For instance, for me, where I am, I've created like a corridor. If you want to come and share with me, we share.
Okay.
Every person is different. I'm a bold person. I'll walk up to you and I will give it to you. And I think when you show up in a workspace, find your backbone and stick to it. It's a challenge. Eventually, if things don't work out in the workspace, it has to become open. Management has to come in and say, guys, we're creating. For me, when the lockdown came, I think it gave an opportunity for all workspaces to rearrange the culture, the work culture, because it's something simmering under there, and if we don't deal with it, it remains a cancer, a disease. Because there comes a time when you just say enough is enough, and you keep walking away from every job because you're tired of confronting. This is bigger than an individual. It's the setup that has to deal with it, kill it in the bud, but also raising women who believe in themselves. I'm at that point in my life, if you're going to become a headache to me, I can throw in my papers and walk, and always an opportunity will open. Because I'm in that mind space, but not everybody is there. The young girls right now, as I've got it, how do I? So people are feeding off their fear. So we need to deal with that fear, but also kill what's creating that fear in that space. So maybe young girls in a workspace should start having what we have there called communities, where they can share where these challenges are. And if they have the evidence, like for a better way, take it to the management. If management is not handling it, I believe there's a higher person in labor who can deal with it. It's time to put these things out in the open.
Great. Well, in a way, you are telling us, in a way, that as you're going out there to capture these stories, I mean, these are like stories you've captured. So if you can hold the camera or even a recorder and record something or someone out there, then you're likely you're in position to actually record something, even if they don't notice, and be able to have evidence that you can use. As an evolving woman,
Yes.
the golden question.
Yes.
What projects and initiatives are you currently working on?
There's a lot cooking in my pot.
Okay.
I will continue to be a communicator, a speaker, an educator. I'm still in the broadcast, but I'm seeing how the evolution has come, social media, radio. One of my dreams, actually, is to set up a resort and set up my own in-house broadcast, where people can come first and have an experience, but also where I can mentor others to find themselves, to fit in the new era of broadcast.
Okay, and well, I guess that also answers the question of what do you hope to achieve in the next chapter of your career? Just a little more on that.
This woman wants to be heard all over the world. I want to speak to a generation to find itself, so that we can change the trajectory that's taking place in. So I'm looking for all opportunities where I can be hosted as a key speaker, keynote speaker. That's why I'm traveling, so that I can connect with people.
Right.
Yeah.
And that also puts you in a place of the mentorships, in a place where you're able to pour into the younger generation. Exactly. Lastly, to the ladies out there, to the women in the media, as we are celebrating this day, celebrating women, the last pointers to us women who are in the media, how do we make it better?
Continue to invest in yourself.
Okay.
Yesterday you were at this level, step it up, invest in your thinking, in your interactions, keep getting better. Number 2, do not compare yourself to anybody else.
Right.
And finally, it's not competition. Find yourself, you're in your own spotlight.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Irene Ocho, for sparing some time to come and speak to us and for sharing your experience of over 20 years in the media. I've had a lot to pick and learn, especially when it comes to making sure that you have defined and identified yourself and what you want to do, and making sure that you are confident enough that you are not broken by some of the challenges that we continue to face. And if you'll agree with me, these challenges are not going anywhere.
No.
They're not good. So that means we have to brace ourselves
Exactly.
and build a thicker skin to be able to face them. To the ladies, a happy Women's Week. And as we are closing into, we're going to be having these conversations. But thank you for being a part of today's show. And I'm hoping that you have a great morning. Good Morning Uganda still continues. Stay with us.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on